Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Damian Watts. People call me the 8-figure creator, and I have a heck of a story to tell you. So let's get started from the very beginning. As you know, I was a collegiate athlete, played college ball for 4 years, graduated with my master's, and ultimately ended up getting a job in Dallas, Texas. Now, with that job, I got brought in as a business analyst at a toll road company, and all I did all day long was sit behind the computer and look at spreadsheets. So I was already really good at looking at data, finding trends, and analyzing things to help the business optimize for optimal results. And after 9 months of working this job, they were bidding on different toll roads and they did not get the bid that they were expecting. So an entire department, which I was a part of, got let go. And when I got let go, it was one of those things where it was like, it wasn't like a bummer, right? At first I was like, I gotta tell my wife, I gotta tell everybody that's associated. We had just bought a new house. And those were the things that were running through my mind at the time. But luckily I had saw an ad from Tai Lopez probably 2.5 weeks before, and I got started on my digital marketing journey. Throughout that process, I was already in the process of coding due to my main major, which was management information systems. So a little bit of computer science, a little bit of website development, and project management. So I already had a little bit of a skill set that gave me the ability to kind of hit the ground running when it comes to running your own digital business. So after starting with Tai Lopez, thank God I was able to land my very first client within the first week of getting let go. I hit the ground running when it came to digital marketing. Now, I didn't know anything about digital marketing outside of what was being taught inside of that course, but it was just one of those things that I had a deep feeling that if I figure this out, I already understand that every business in the world needs this social media advertising lane. And that was something that I was very, very, very passionate about figuring out so that I can work for myself. After being let go, that was something that I never wanted to experience again. And that was just something that I was extremely determined to make work. So ultimately, I made that work, and we ended up getting 2 clients after that first one. And this was all in the local space because that's all that was being taught at the time. Drop shipping was pretty hot at the time as well. And this was around 2015, 2016. After that process, I immediately lost 2 of those clients and only had 1 left. You know, ultimately you might think that that's a failure, but I lost those clients because inside of the program, they taught you how to get clients, but they didn't teach you how to retain clients. And by retaining those clients, I had to find that information somewhere else online. And luckily, I figured out early in the game from the typical guru system, I was able to spot out people pretty early on who was legit and who was full of it. And with that determination that I had and that discernment that I was able to utilize throughout this process, it just gave me the ultimate ability to get to the destination that I was looking to get to way faster. It started off with local, and then next thing you know, drop shipping is just constantly, that's all I'm seeing is drop shipping ads. And I decided to take a dabble into the e-commerce world. Now, from a contractual standpoint, we were able to charge these local businesses, and this was restaurants, fitness facilities, dentists, doctors. So you can charge anywhere between $1,500, maybe top at that time, just based on what I understood, $3,000 to $5,000. And that was like the max, right? But it's local, so they don't have a lot of reach. They can only go within a 30 to 50 mile radius. So we were very limited on that scalability. With the e-commerce side, I think the first client that we got in the e-commerce world was a brand called Active Faith. And it was an online athleisure apparel brand that we were able to scale out to multiple millions of dollars online. But once I got a taste of the e-commerce world and I got to see how broad and wide open that it was versus a local radius, that right there is when it clicked. When that clicked, everything changed for my life, for my business, for my family. Everything changed. Why did it change? It changed because now I'm no longer limited to this box. And once I got outside of that box, now any and every business that I know online, I figured out that they needed more to their business versus just SEO, versus just simple Facebook ads. I then started to become the omni-channel expert by diversifying into Google ads, diversifying into YouTube ads. TikTok wasn't around, but Snapchat was around. So we started to build a moat around our core offerings. So I had a few guys based out of Atlanta. They owned a talent agency where they managed a lot of social media for people like T.I., Waka Flocka, and a bunch of other big name celebrities and brands. And we had the opportunity to work with some of these brands on the back end. So I was able to gain a lot of experience. And at this time, we probably worked with 40 brands at this point. So after Active Faith, we then got to working with a company called Cub Coats and Game Day Couture. We've done stuff with Nickelodeon sub brands, Discovery Channel. It's so many brands that we were just behind because we were the labor at the time when people were looking for media buyers, etc. And we were willing to learn any and everything. So we would go into these projects. Yes, we were underpaid for some of them, but most of them, we got what we were worth. And once we got good, and we knew that we got good because we were taking brands from mid 5 figures to multi 6 figures, multi 7 figures per month inside of those brands. So at that point, I'm sitting behind the scenes just like, I have this mastered. We went from local all the way to e-commerce. And then I met my first digital guru by the name of Jared Getz. And he was a guy who was teaching drop shipping at an extremely high level back in those days, had a very big brand. He eventually ended up transitioning into software for drop shipping businesses. ZenDrop is the name of the brand that he ended up starting. But throughout that process, he had a pretty big e-commerce store that was doing multiple 6 figures per month. We managed that on the back end. And then once I got a hold of that e-commerce brand with Jared Getz, things kind of shifted because he decided to teach about it. So this was my first digital product that I was able to get my hands on in the market. And that was the third shift that made everything significantly different because now the margins are better. So you start with local where you have a limited radius. You go to e-commerce where your margins they're not always healthy. You might sell an apparel for 60 to 80 bucks, but it might cost you 40 bucks for the hoodie, $15 for the shirt, whatever the case may be. And then you have advertising costs. So you have to worry about your CAC, you have to worry about the margins, you have to worry about your ROAS, site-wide, all of those different marketing metrics that you have to worry about in order to remain profitable inside of your business. And once we got into the digital world, we were able to sell products for $1,000 and we would only spend $200 to get that $1,000 sale. So we would have $800 in profit. We were able to sell $2,000 products and sell those for 500 bucks. So when courses were hot at this time and things were fairly newer inside of the digital marketing space, we scaled rapidly. And from that connection from the Atlanta crew that I mentioned, they brought in a person by the name of Jay Morrison. And I'm not here to say anybody is fluff master or not, but we were working with Jay Morrison back in let's call it late 2017, early 2018. And we were able to take that brand to astronomical heights. And this was before I got in business with any of the other people. It was Jared Getz, and then it was Jay Morrison. So I had one over here in this culture, and I had another over here in our culture. And shout out to my boy, Nick Shackelford. He was a part of my journey in the very beginning when it came to understanding how to scale aggressively on these advertising platforms. The number one thing that I realized that you have to have is a fearless mindset when it comes to spending money online. So you have some people who are able to spend $100 a day. You have some people who are able to spend $1,000 a day. You have some people who are able to spend $5,000 a day. But I was ready to go past that 5-figure mark per day. And this was again back in 2017. And when Nick gave me these strategies, and you can literally go on the founder's website right now and see a testimonial from way back then of me giving him a shout out for this. Within 14 days, we were able to make over $1 million. And I can attest and say that that's 100% off of the strength of Nick's strategies and the processes, and again, that mindset shift. He showed me how to spend $10,000 in one day inside of one account in one campaign. And this was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life, because when you're spending money online like this, you understand that if that $10,000 is set up wrong, $10,000 is going down the drain. And what does that mean? Your butt's getting fired. And that was in the e-commerce world. Taking that confidence from selling over 7 figures in a month with the company Cub Coats, which was a teddy bear transformed into a hoodie. And we did that in a matter of 4 weeks. We took that same information and scaling strategies over into the digital world, and that's when things got ugly very quickly. We went from $50,000 a month for some of our brands all the way to $500,000 a month. And by the end of 2018, Jay Morrison was doing over $1 million a month. And that is, he was the first person I ever taken to $1 million a month in the digital lane, selling information and IP online. And from that point, we then got into the 100K Club conference. And we all know how that went down. But from that point, I got in bed with Tony the Closer. And Tony the Closer, he added a different element to the scheme. He was very well connected, and he introduced us to every black person online that you see today that's making money. They have Tony to thank for that. The first person he brought in was Nehemiah Davis. Then he brought in Joshua Chris. Then he brought in him 500. Then he brought the list goes on and on. From that point, it just completely flipped upside down. We went from spending $100,000 to $300,000 a month to 7 figures plus every single month by the 9th month of bringing in all of these people. And I think that that's something that is unprecedented in today's world. We've been doing this for a little over 7.5, going on 8 years now. And we've been able to generate over $500 million for brands just from networking. We've never ran a single ad to bring in business into our ecosystem, and we work with hundreds of brands. At one point, after generating, $1 million in a day, I made a post inside of the Funnel Hacking Live group in 2020 after doing $1 million in a day through selling digital products. I had everybody and their grandma trying to get into business with us. When I made that post, I had people like Perry Belcher, John Osseroff, Marisa Merchagoyd, Anthony Morrison. And this is in a completely different world, but they all were like, if you can do this for people like this who don't even understand the information marketing world, what can you do for us? And I had the amazing opportunity to get behind the scenes and see what it's like to run a real information marketing business. The operations, the systems, how they hire, how they fire, how they think about money, how they invest their money, why they do certain things. And I was able to take all of those frameworks and systems and create my own documentation around how to scale brands online profitably across the board. It didn't matter what it was. E-commerce, local, digital. We did some services. We were helping lawyers and attorneys. We mastered the art of making people money online. We mastered the art of social media advertising. We then got into the funnel development, building your websites, email marketing, SMS. And once I got into the e-commerce world, that's when I noticed back end. Everyone talks about making revenue on the front end, gross revenue, etc. But once I got into the e-commerce world, I truly started to master the back end sales. And I started to master and understand how important back end sales were. That was email marketing, not just email marketing, broadcasts, the automations, the workflows behind that. SMS, when SMS came to the scene, it obviously took over. But once we figured out how to combine both of those on top of the advertising strategies that we were implementing, stuff got real. It got real, and it got real fast. So throughout that process, let's backtrack a little bit. So as we were working, and one of my craziest stories to date was honestly working with him 500 and scaling that brand out. When he first came into our world, I honestly didn't believe. I just thought it was another product. There wasn't any revenue coming through the door for this particular product, and it was just another client at the time. But that first month, after generating the money that we generated, and then the next month we went from 5 figures to 6 figures, and we went to multi 6 figures, and it just kept building, and then COVID hit. And once that happened, everything that we thought was going to happen didn't happen. We thought that the world was going to turn upside down. We thought that everything was going to shut down. We thought that people weren't going to be spending money. And it was the absolute complete opposite. People were spending more money during this time than I had ever seen online. It happened so fast. Every single person that we were working with was able to get to multi 6 figure. Some of them got to multi 7 figure. And we've had people go from 0 all the way to $40 million in less than 24 months. And it sounds unheard of, especially when all of that money came from selling information, right? It wasn't like they were getting a tangible good or anything of that nature. We were simply just selling a person's specialized knowledge. Now, we did find out after some time when you're working with clients, and this is why we no longer work with clients, we work with publishing partners and growth partners where we are inside of the business and we can focus on their fulfillment, their operations, helping them hire, helping them train, etc. We found, and quite frankly, we broke a lot of businesses because they didn't have the operation on the inside. And we were only service providers, so we were just running the ads, building the funnels, running the emails, etc. We weren't focused on the customer fulfillment because that wasn't a part of our payment. Once we did that $1 million in a day and we started to see these people over here are doing 20, 30, 40, $70 million plus per year, what is the difference between these brands and these brands over here that are, barely cracking 7 figures and having a hard time getting to 8? It all came down to quality product, building a big ass list, and understanding your target market and customer fulfillment. Once we figured out these 3 missing pieces, because we understood that you have to have a quality product, but the fulfillment is also a part of that process where, okay, you can have a quality product, but if they don't receive it, they don't get access to it, they're not guided through the process, you might as well not sell the product because the person is just gonna be stuck. And then they're gonna go into a chargeback or give you or ask for a refund because they feel like they didn't get what they paid for. Because we found that people are just flat out lazy. They can get all the information in the world, but if they don't execute on that information, it just sits on the shelf and collects dust. And once we figured out the power of launches, the power of how we got to 7 figures in a day, 7 figures in a month, and we started to reverse engineer all of these processes, and then we just ended up creating a proprietary ecosystem just based off of all of the businesses that we were able to touch. And we've worked with so many niches at this point. Everything in real estate we've touched. Wholesale, fix and flip, burst strategy, Airbnb, construction, sub 2, fix and flips. I mean, everything you could possibly think of, we've done in real estate. The financial literacy space, funding, credit, service. I sold wigs. We've sold apparel. We've touched so much that we've been able to kind of figure out who's gonna buy and who's not gonna buy based on, whatever product that we're selling. And with all of that data, we were able to find trends, truly understand what people wanted, and we understood how to put the right product in front of the right person and solve major problems in the industry. And by doing all of this, we have now become one of the top companies in the game, I believe, when it comes to scaling brands online, especially in the culture. I don't know anybody who's replicated half of what we've done for our people in the culture. Now, there are a lot of great brands out there, people building really dope things, but I haven't seen anyone come close to what we've done for as many people as we've done it for. We've created nothing but authorities in these spaces. Now, some of them good, some of them bad, and that's something that we had to deal with subconsciously and consciously, honestly, because we were empowering people who truly weren't business owners. They were hustlers. And there's nothing wrong with hustling, but when it comes to running a 7, 8, 9-figure per year company, you gotta have structure, you gotta have a big team, and you gotta understand that the customer always comes first. And what we started to find throughout this entire process is people cared more about the money than they did the customer. And that's where we started to have the problems. So for example, if a person has to decide whether or not they're gonna put food on the table for their family or that customer, most of the time they're always gonna choose their family, which is understandable, but you can't do that at the cost of someone's hard-earned money. And so much money was coming in so fast that it got really hard to keep track of because people weren't focused on the fulfillment. They weren't focused on having solid operations on the back end. And that's where you started to run into the grifters and the scammers, the fluff masters. And that's something that I no longer could tolerate within our ecosystem. I'm super proud of what we did because, we forked over a lot of money in that process by firing over 50% of the people that we work with, okay? And this happened in 2022. 2022 was something that completely shifted my focus. It shifted how I thought about business. It shifted, obviously the revenue shifted, but we were able to go into these business deals moving forward with, good energy. We started to find better business owners. We started to find people who actually cared about their customers. And that is something that is way more fulfilling than just helping someone get to 8 figures without knowing what's going on and are their customers happy. And that's just something that, most people, they either weren't willing to pay for that stuff or it's just something that they just didn't understand, so they didn't even want to put in the effort. This journey of getting into digital marketing, coming from sports, it's been one hell of a journey. We've had the opportunity to work with brands like Eric Thomas and many other names that I've named here already. I've been able to do some crazy things. I've been to Rick Ross's crib. I've worked with T.I. on the back end. He didn't even know we were working with him, but I've just been able to have access to so many different things that people wouldn't even fathom today. And I'm extremely proud to say that I have definitely had a major impact on our culture. And I only see things going up from here as we continue to level up. Obviously, AI is now in the forefront, and we are implementing this into all of the businesses that we work with today, including ours, and it is something that is truly revolutionary in today's age. I wanted to give you a background of who we are, what we've done, to kind of give you and paint a picture of the journey that we've been on over these past 7.5, 8 years. And I think that you'll start to understand just how powerful we have become in the space and how much further that we still have to go to reach our milestone. And again, my name is Damian Watts, and I hope you enjoy.